So, that's a great harsh light there. But it is what it is. So, hello, strangers. Strange Worlds Unlimited. I'm your host, Fred Strange. And I'm doing something a little bit differently today. I want to talk about something a trend that I've been seeing lately, and it's gotten me a little concerned. Now, for those of you who do or do not watch this channel, and if you're new to this channel, either on Twitch or on YouTube, depending on what platform you're watching this on, you go through my videos, you're gonna notice I play a lot of games. Okay. And I do that for fun, my own entertainment, entertain you, what have you. But let's be real here. I have a history degree. I used to teach history. Didn't get a chance to teach much of it due to a lot of circumstances beyond my control. You know, economy taking the dive that it did, 10 odd years ago, kind of threw a wrench in that whole teaching of anything situation. But for a bit, I did teach a little bit of it. I did cover this subject that we're going to be covering today, and those few times I was able to teach it. So I've got a history background, specifically in U.S. history. I'm not an expert by any means. I know a lot of some things, but I also know when some things are wrong, and the great thing is that that knowledge that I acquired through learning the subject, getting the degree, teaching the subject, you pay attention, and then you hear something and you go, well, that doesn't sound right, and it allows you to then find other sources. And what I've been seeing over the course of the couple weeks here are, well, I started off with this guy. I've been seeing this video. Let me go back. The Star Spangled Banner as you've never heard it. Okay, so I've been seeing people, mainly British people, or non-Americans, posting videos on YouTube. This is a YouTube video, and they've been reacting to this YouTube video. And so, Mr. H and friends, let's see. This one just got posted. New Zealand girl, Courtney Colson, New Zealand girl reacts to Star Spangled Banner. Here's a Russian guy reacts to. British guy reacts to. Beasley. Scotsman. British guy loves Luca. Okay, so I've been seeing, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's just 6 posted within, let's see, April, January of 2 years ago. So that one's old. April of this year. March, a few weeks ago of this year. May 1st, that was yesterday. April, okay. So this has suddenly become a trend. Somebody is recommending all of these non-American people to be reacting to this video. And normally that's great. That's fine. I'm certainly all for the exchange of information across cultures and stuff like that. These people are not Americans. They're mostly British, Russian, British, Scottish, Russian, New Zealand. Okay. And there's probably others out there that I haven't found yet. These 6 are just, are the ones that popped up onto the screen. And they're all reacting to this video here. Star Spangled Banner, if you've never heard it. Now, so why am I reacting to it? Why is the historian reacting to it? Why do I have the title that I do? Okay. The title is, of this video, right down there, Historian Reacts to Bad History. Okay. Why is it bad history? Because this is bad history. Okay. I was watching, I've been seeing it pop up, and so I finally gave this guy a shot. And watched as he watched it. And I'm not completely fluent on, I'm not completely fluent on the War of 1812. It's not necessarily one of the things that I've really studied that hard. I'm much more, my focus in studying history has been American history. My focus in American history has been things like the Civil War, World War II. So I'm not necessarily versed in every, aspect of, the Revolution. I know a bit more about that. War of 1812, like Mexican-American War, various things like that. Civil War is an interesting topic to me. World War II and on to now has been much more of my my focus. So I'm not terribly versed in the War of 1812, and this is a story that is about the the writing of the poem that was later put to music and together became the Star Spangled Banner, and therefore the national anthem of the United States, for anybody who doesn't know this. Okay. And I know some of this, but I don't know everything, or I didn't. And so I watched it with this guy. I put it off for a while. I've been seeing, like I said, I've been seeing this going around. But I'll watch this, see what he thinks about it. And as I'm watching it, I'm beginning to go, well, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right. And the more it progressed, this is he's got 16 minutes or something like that. The video itself is 11 and a half minutes. And through the first 9 minutes of it, 8 minutes of it, where's the singing start? 8.5 minutes in or so. Yeah, about 8.5, almost 9 minutes in. 9 minutes in. By the end of that 9 minutes, I was more and more convinced, becoming more and more convinced that this isn't right. That doesn't sound right. That's not what I learned. So I went, that's my own history. That's my history background kicking in. This is stuff that I've studied in college. This is stuff that I've taught as a high school and junior high teacher. Okay? Briefly as that was, I was able to teach on this subject. And through what I learned in college, through what I taught. I'm going, no, that something's right. That doesn't quite sound right. Is this really real? And you do what you do what you do. You go and look it up. You find the information. And I went to American Battlefield Trust. That's a good source. Wikipedia. Not a great source. It's a good first source. One thing a lot of teachers will tell you is never, if you're going to do a research paper, don't go to Wikipedia. Well, go to Wikipedia. That'll give you some accurate information, and I'll give you some generally accurate information, basic information. What you really want to do is, if you're doing a research paper, you can't cite Wikipedia in your research paper. What you can do, you can go down. I hope you guys can see this. You can go down through the external links. Those will have, primary sources and stuff like that. That's where you go to. You go to Wikipedia to get some basic information, then you go down to here and get primary sources, and you read those. And those are the things you cite. Just as an aside. But you go, you can go to Wikipedia and look at, the defense of Fort McHenry. Okay, so let me. Why is this bad? I'll break it down for you. All right, so let's get into this here. And we're really gonna Star Spangled Banners. You never heard it. Trumpets and a flag and whatever.
There was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key.
Right? That's accurate.
He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the National Anthem.
The 1 year I went to church, I never saw this in the hymnal. You guys are putting this in your church hymnals? Really? Okay. Mostly where you see this is at sporting events, or other, memorial things, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. You go to, a ceremony honoring our veterans, honoring our fallen dead, things like that. You're going to hear the national anthem being performed, either instrumentally or with the lyrics.
It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words of that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child, but we've never really thought about what it means.
All right, let me minor criticism before we really get into the. Where is this guy talking? It sounds like he's in an auditorium or somewhere, an empty one. and the fact that he's talking about in the churches and everything like that sounds to me like a Christian pastor. Which is, that's fine. But as we get into this, you're going to see why that's not fine.
Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore. The colonies were engaged in vicious conflict.
Colonies. Okay. That's the first thing that piqued my. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer. I think he was from Baltimore, somewhere in Maryland, nearby. Okay? The colonies. No. Okay? That's the first, especially for an American to refer to this time period as the colonies, tells me he's already not getting this story right. Okay? This is the war of the time period he's trying to talk about is the War of 1812. The United States has 15 states already. We can probably get into this. There's already 15 states. There are 15 stars on the flag. There's actually 15 stripes on the flag by this point. They stopped that after 15. They stopped adding stripes. They went back to 13 stripes and just kept on adding stars from state 16 on. They just added stars, and they didn't add any more stripes. They went back to 13 stripes. So the original 13 colonies have 13 stripes on the flag, which is, the flag that you see right here behind me that I'm kind of covering up. Okay, 13 stripes, top to bottom. Okay, 50 stars, which I'm also covering up, but 50 because we have 50 states, right? Every time we add a state, we can add another star. But at the time this is taking place, we have 15 stars and 15 stripes on this flag here. Okay? The United States has been in existence as an entity for 30 plus years. Okay? This is now, actually, at the time of this is 1814. Okay? So I'm trying to do the math. I'm a history teacher, not a math teacher. So 1776 is when we signed off on the Declaration of Independence, right? That's the official July 4th, 1770. That's when we start counting how old the country is, right? As a national entity. Okay? So 76, 86, 96, 06, 16. So from that point, 38 years, this nation has been a not a colony, not colonies, a country. Okay, for 38 years by this point. Okay, a lot of the people that are fighting in this war, a lot of the young people that were fighting in this war, weren't even born when the country was started. They were born after the war was the Revolutionary War, the colonies breaking away from England. Okay, so I don't know what this guy's coming from saying this is colonies. Okay, there's no colonies. It's a nation. He's already inaccurate.
Because of this conflict and the protractedness of it, they had accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners. And the American government initiated a move. They went to the British and they said, let us negotiate for the release of these prisoners.
Okay, this is inaccurate. There was no in relation to where he's going to be going with this story. Never happened. Maybe it happened some other time. Maybe it happened later. Maybe it happened before. Maybe it happened somewhere else. Didn't happen here.
They said, we want to send a man out to discuss this with you. They were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards offshore.
Offshore of where? Offshore of where? Okay? He doesn't say.
And they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange.
Okay. Let me keep going here. And
On the appointed day, in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials. And they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant with the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of men and women.
all right, stopping right there. Number one. Okay, so we're talking about ships offshore. What he's not mentioning. Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna have to cut this down or something like that. This is I'm spending so much time. It's infuriating. I'm gonna spend way more time destroying this thing than it took to make it, and all these other people to react to it. But it's important. It's important that I do this, and that you know that I'm doing this, and that you know the history of what's going on here. This is wrong. Okay? Whatever this image is right here, this is wrong. There was no several prisoners. The American government didn't send. The American government had other problems to deal with. By the time Francis Scott Key got on board the British ships, that's accurate. He was a lawyer, and he went to the British. He negotiated the release of one person, a friend. It wasn't a boatload of people. Why? Because he was going aboard warships. They don't have room for this on warships. These were not. I don't know what this was. I don't know what this is supposed to. Where this picture is supposed to be. There is no such holding cells in the ships that Key went aboard. And the reason why those ships were even there is they had just sacked. Where's that picture? They just sacked Washington, D.C. The British set fire to the White House, Capitol building, and a bunch of other buildings. The War of 1812 was basically the United States getting mad at the British for involving the Americans into a war that was already going on between England and France. England and France were both doing things to the Americans that the Americans didn't like. The problem is that the British were much more blatant about those things, taking Americans off of American ships and putting them onto British ships and making them work in the Navy because they thought that those Americans were British citizens that had deserted. Not true. A lot of these people were born and raised in the colonies in the States, depending on how old they were. Okay. The British eventually ended that practice, but a bunch they're also inciting problems with Native Americans and the American government, the U.S. government, the United States government got a little greedy in terms of Canada, which the British still owned and would own until the 1900s. And I mean, it's still considered a commonwealth. Okay, it's an independent country, but it's still considered a commonwealth. The chief executive, is a governor to the Queen, right? But their system is different than what an American, myself included, is used to. The key point, though, is that Canada at this time was under direct control, and the United States thought that it might just be better if we kicked the British completely out, annex Canada as it stood then as part of the entire, so that the entire North American continent, at least what Spain / Mexico did not control, that would all be United States territory. So we got a little bit greedy there. Plus we were having issues with Britain and France. Britain was more blatant. So we went to war with Britain. And mostly it was proxy wars between Native American tribes that both sides were kind of, supporting. This tribe was supported by the British, so an enemy tribe, a tribe that had been enemies with, tribe A and tribe B, right? Native Americans, Indians, right? Tribe A sided with the British. Got guns and stuff from the British. Great. You want us to fight a war? We'll fight a war for you. Tribe B had always been at war with Tribe A for before the white man ever showed up. So, Tribe B sides with the Americans just so they can, okay. And so there's a lot of that, particularly down in the South. Read up on Andrew Jackson. That has a lot to do with, Native American proxy, Native American British versus, U.S. Wars. The rest of the stuff was the U.S. continuing trying to invade into Canada and unsuccessfully. By this point, the war between France and England was over. England now had a chance to turn its full focus on its war with America, and they went on the offensive. And the first thing that they did was attack the nation's capital. They attacked Washington, D.C., and they set fire to a bunch and set the government scrambling. James Madison was president at the time. He barely got out of this building in time. Anybody who might have been in the Congress, anybody in Congress that might have been in the Capitol building, they also barely escaped. Not many might have been there at the time. It took a lot longer and a lot harder to travel to and from Washington D.C. if you were a congressperson. So you spend a few months in D.C. and a few months away. So half a year in one place, half a year in another place, and it take you days, weeks, to get to and from home to Washington D.C. depending on where you lived. Okay, so it's 1814. The British are now in the attack. Okay, they've just burnt Washington D.C. They're heading up to Baltimore. Why are they heading up to Baltimore? Because the United States. Anybody familiar with pirates? You guys know what pirates are, right? You see, Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever, right? Pirates, okay. But if a pirate contracts with a government to only attack ships belonging to somebody else than that government, you change the terms. If the Pirates of the Caribbean, if the British government had gone to Jack Black and said, we'll give you a full pardon, you can do whatever you want, just stop attacking British ships, go attack the French and the Spanish ships that are in the Caribbean, and we'll be fine with that, okay? And that happened a lot. And you change the terms. They are no longer pirates, they are privateers, okay? The United States, because they didn't really have that great of a navy at this point, they had some ships. They had some famous ships, the USS Constitution being one of them. But, compared to the British Navy, it was nothing. So in order to try to compete with that British Navy, they contracted with pirates that were still operating at this time and made them privateers. Okay, leave the U.S. ships alone, go attack the British ships. Okay. Baltimore was the main supply port. One of them. The other one was New Orleans. But Baltimore was the main supply port for these privateers. The British Navy had gotten enough damage from these privateers that, we're going to go up to Baltimore and take out this port. Okay? And by the way, that's something that I'll come back to that. Okay? So that's where they're going. They're headed up to Baltimore. Okay? They have one prisoner aboard. It's a Navy fleet. It's an armada of ships. Okay? Heading up to Baltimore to try to take out the ships and the port and capture the city, destroy it, take it out of action. Take that Navy, such as it is, out of action. Okay? That's the goal here. They've already burnt the Capitol. Now they're going to take out that supply yard and get these privateers out of action. Okay? They have one man on board the ship. His friend is Francis Scott Key. They didn't have cargo holds full of people. It was one person. This did not happen. colonies.
This filth out of your chain.
What?
As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came and he said, "We have a slight problem." He said, "We will still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight. It won't matter." Francis Scott Key said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, Mr. Key," he said, "tonight we have laid an ultimatum
Upon the colonies. That didn't happen. There was no ultimatum. They're just on their way to Baltimore to take out a supply ship.
Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of, or you see that fort right over there, Fort Henry." He said, "We're going to bring the face of the earth."
Okay. Fort Henry. He didn't even get the name of the damn fort right. It's McHenry. Fort McHenry. And the whole reason why they're going after, and they're not going after the flag. They want to take the fort out. They want to, more importantly, they want to take the guns of the fort out. Why? Because the only way to get to Baltimore is to get past that fort. The only way to get past that fort is to not have that fort shoot on you. They can hit any ship going past that fort. And if they do that, okay, and the fort is in a bottleneck, so you're only going to be able to get a few ships through at a time, and all you need to do is just sink one of them. You sink one, no other boats getting through, no other boats are getting in, no other boats are getting out. And the thing is that the water nearby it is shallow. So so keep that in mind. Everything, the water nearby Fort McHenry, I mean, that should just tell you just how bad this is. The guy can't even get some basic facts right. There's one man being released. The name of the fort is McHenry. He can't even get basic facts right. And there it is. That's Fort McHenry. It's a star fort. And I don't know if you can see it too well, but those are cannons right there. And you got even more right along here. Those all face out into the water. You got long range guns, shorter range guns there. They're all going to be out in the water. Any boats going past this are going to be under attack. Yeah, there weren't hundreds of ships. That's true. Yeah, there's only one problem. Not true. Okay. This guy's going to go and talk about how there's civilians in this fort. There's no civilians in this fort. There's no reason to have civilians in this fort. Why would you have civilians in this fort when right behind it is the entire city of Baltimore? Okay? Any civilians would be in the city of Baltimore. Number one. And they got to get past this fort in order to even get to Baltimore. Number two, they know that they're coming. The word is already spread that these people have already bombed. These people have already burnt Washington D.C. They already know that that's happened. Okay, the word came up the road from D.C. to Baltimore faster than these ships could sail up the Chesapeake Bay. So they already know that, and they know that they're on their way up. They can see them coming up. No doubt. And there's already 10,000 men a little south of this fort, also with guns. Twice the size of the invasion force that the British have already put on shore. So they've already held up the British on land. They're about to have they got to get the British Navy has to get past this fort in order to get into Baltimore. Any citizens would be in Baltimore. And by this point, any citizens in Baltimore are probably leaving Baltimore, going north. if they're really concerned, men, women, and children that are, civilians not involved in the fight, they're really concerned about, the fact that they might get bombarded by the British. They're already leaving town. They're in town, leaving town. They're not holed up in this fort. It's infuriating.
He says it's predominantly not a military fort.
It is predominantly a military fort. It is totally military fort. There's no citizens in here.
Way out. He said, what's that? He said, do you see that flag way up on the rampart? He said, we have told them that if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop.
That's not true. That's not true. Their goal is not to. Their goal is not to. Their goal has nothing to do with that flag. Their goal is to get past this fort into Baltimore and take out the supply port for the pirates, for the privateers. It has nothing to do with the flag.
And we'll know that they've surrendered. You'll now be under British rule.
Also, not the goal of the British at this time. The United States, again, has been in existence for the better part of 40 years. The British know that it's lost. There's no getting the Americas back. That is not a goal. This is not a colony. This is not subduing the colonies to bring them back under British rule. Okay, this is 40 years. This is nearly 40 years later. Okay, the Constitution, as we know it, has been in existence for 35 years by this point. 33 years by this point. Okay? So, wherever you want to count the beginning of the nation as a nation, do you want to count it at the Declaration of Independence, or do you want to count it at the ratification of, the final signing of the Constitution, when the Constitution became the law of the land? Where do you want to count it from? Because either way, you're talking anywhere from 30 to 40 years have gone past to this point. Okay, he's not talking about colonies. He's not talking about colonies. He's not talking about bringing the colonies under British rule again. That's past. That's over. That's not the point. The point here is to take the fight out of the Americans once and for all. You want to declare war on the British? Fine. You've had your way for the past 1.5, 2 years now. Now we're going to bring the fight to you. We're going to take out your ability to fight. They've destroyed the capital. Now they're going after a supply port. And they're going to go, and after this, they're going to go after the other supply port. Okay. So it has nothing to do with the flag. This is already wrong. Yeah, not hundreds. Dozens. So I don't know what this guy's talking about. I'm listening to this. I'm like, that's not right. All right. Number one, the British started firing at dawn. Okay, in the morning, not at sunset. Okay, they shelled that fort for the better part of a day. Okay, 22 hours or something like that. No, it was longer than that. Like 25 hours. Yeah, it's in here somewhere. I'll go look it up. They shelled it for the better part of a day. An hour or two, give or take. 24 hours is either 22 or 25, something like that. I'll look it up again. But he started at dawn, and there wasn't a clear day. It was a full-on rainstorm going on at the time. Okay, there was no clear skies. There was nothing. There was a full-on rainstorm going on at the time. Okay, not in the afternoon. In the morning is when they started firing, and and you'll see who they start, and you'll see, and I'll get to what started firing in a minute. Started firing in the morning, and in a rainstorm. A pretty big one too. Which
He says the sound was deafening. There were so many guns that there were no reliefs. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly.
okay. Actually, let's go back. Can we get up? Okay. You see this? This is telling. See all those ships in the background that are not firing? And all of these that are coming over there? Okay. That's an accurate painting. That's kind of an accurate painting. But what is it painting? Okay. This is not hundreds of ships firing on a fort. Remember how I said in order to get past the fort, you have to go through a narrow passage. The water around the fort is shallow. So in order to get past the fort, you got a very narrow passage where the water is deep enough to get through. Okay? And it's right underneath the guns of this fort. And you don't want those guns firing on you. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to take out the guns. They're trying to take out the people in the fort manning the guns to silence the guns so that they can get up through that narrow plank. And they can't get close enough to those guns without being under fire of those guns. And if one ship sinks, their whole endeavor is done, right? So what they send is not their full battleships. They send mortar ships that ride a little shallower. You know, standard British warship has anywhere from 2 to 3 rows of guns that are shooting not straight, but maybe angled up about 5, 10. You could probably bend it back, but like 20 degrees or so. Firing an arc, right? But it's a shallow arc. Okay, it's not. Look at this. That is straight up and over, right? Okay. In order for these ships to be firing, they'd be firing almost straight in and hitting the walls. You're not really shooting over the walls so much as into them. Right? This is a great thing about the Star Forts is that those walls are really thick. Okay, and the guns that they have in place there are same kind of cannons. They're only angle up maybe 20 degrees at best. Okay, but they're good enough that they're still gonna hit any ships that are coming through that area. They're still long range enough that they're gonna hit your ships and they're gonna sink it right in the harbor there. Okay. So they're sending mortars. Mortars fire anywhere from 45 to a 60 degree angle. Okay. And they're kind of bombs that you see those kind of bombs that they have the little wick on the end. You light the wick and boom, right? The spy versus spy type of bombs, right? They're those kind of things. You light the wick, you send it down, you put a little bit of powder in the bottom there of this mortar. Okay, and the mortar is massive. I should get a picture of it. Big things, even on these ships. And and they're set on an angle. You touch you light the bomb, throw it down on the thing, touch off the powder. It blows in a high arc like this, and basically you're trying to get up and over the walls and into the center. And sometimes those on their way through, they'll explode. On their way down, they'll explode and fragment. So you had about, I think it says here, I'll get into the thing. There's only about 8 or 10 of these mortar ships that could get close enough to send these mortars over. You had one ship, similar, shallow draft, you get into these shallow waters, that fired rockets. New thing. And the rockets were kind of useless, noisemakers. What they were kind of, it was they would have, the standard rocket. It would be like a firework, Roman candle type of firework rocket that you'd fire off, and it'd, zoom off like a rocket, and then when it got to a certain point, it'd also explode. Boom. And what and they'd have like concrete. You'd have the powder charge. You'd make a concrete tube with a powder charge up in there, right? And as the rocket spun itself out and you got to that powder charge, it'd blow and send concrete everywhere, or other kinds of shrapnel. Okay, so it's anti-personnel. It's really not going to do anything. It's not going to set anything on fire. It's really not going to. Those rockets really didn't do a whole lot of damage. Noisemakers, really. Nothing like what they are now. But rockets, red glare, right? That's the thing, and the bombs burst into the air. That's the mortars. We'll get back to that. But okay, they're not cannons. They're not hundreds of ships shooting cannons. There's 8 to 10 mortar ships plus the rocket ship. That's it. That's as close. And those are the only ships that could get close enough to shell Fort McHenry without really putting a whole lot of, without putting the rest of the fleet in danger. You get close enough to use the fleet's cannons, you're in close enough for the fort's cannons. They have the same cannons. And you can shell the hell out of a fort, that's fine. All they need to do is sink one ship. One. And it's like, well, okay, I guess we're not getting into Baltimore. The whole mission is gone. You got to get rid of that fort. And then the only thing they have they can get close enough, out of range, without running the ship aground. If they run a ship aground trying to get to that fort, they're out of range. Otherwise, those ships can't get close enough to that fort without running aground. Until they get too close, and now they're in range of the fort's guns. Right? So, the admiral's not stupid. There's an admiral, and he's not stupid. He knows what he needs to do. He has objectives that he has to do. He has to take that fort out. He has to silence their guns in order to even get past that fort and into Baltimore to take that supply ship out.
He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit.
Yeah.
And he says from down below,
Bombs and rockets. He couldn't even see the flag. Because it's raining. You can't see anything. And there's no prisoners here. And you're not using these kind of guns. Again, you're not using these kind of guns. Look at that. The best you're going to do is maybe about a 20-degree angle. You get close enough that you can use a 20-degree angle gun. You're too close. You're in range of other things, and again, you're running the chance of running aground, and you can't run aground. Everything about this is wrong.
Every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb, and Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, it's still up.
Yeah.
It's not down.
No, there is some truth to that. The flag that they had up was being pretty well tattered.
He said, what's the matter? He said, don't they understand this is an impossible situation?
It's not impossible. They have the advantage.
Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had said. He said the thing that sets the American Christian apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he'll live on his knees.
I can hear an audience in there. So he's speaking to an audience. There must be a church or something like that. Washington never said that. I don't know who said that Washington wasn't it. He's misquoting Washington.
The admiral said, "We have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that
Okay. That didn't happen. They can't get close enough.
flag down." He said, "We don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again."
That didn't happen either. No reconnaissance. How do you say? What do you mean reconnaissance? Who told you that?
And again, and yet it's still flying. We don't understand that. But he said, "Now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on
Yeah.
this point." Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful.
He never said that. The British couldn't get close enough to bring every gun to bear on it because, you know, they would be, again, the Americans have the advantage here. Okay, the Americans are going to okay, those rockets, the mortars are having an effect. They are shelling the hell out of that fort. But the point is that that's a well built fort. It's not enough to silence the guns. The guns haven't. I mean, and the Americans are shooting back, but they haven't really. They never really get a chance to. You know, they don't get a chance to get to those ships that are shelling them. But the big ships out there, they can't get close enough, or else they will be hit. So you can't. They're not bringing. That didn't happen.
All we need here was the men down below praying.
There was no men down below. You don't have room for men down below when you've got row upon row of cannons firing, or not firing, as the case may be. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here.
Said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely nondescript in shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle.
No,
The flag
not true. Not true.
Francis
Okay. And by the way, by the morning the storm had passed. The general in charge of the fort had lowered the flag that had been up there. But basically, the flag that they'd flown was made for the weather. And yeah, okay, it got battle damaged. So between the rain and the wind, and then all the stuff going off around it, that flag did get damaged. When the shelling finally stopped, when the British finally gave up, ran out of ammunition, I don't know. The general lowered that flag and raised up another one, bigger than the one that had been flying all night. Brand new one.
Scott Key went aboard and immediately went into Fort Henry to see what had happened.
Fort Henry.
What he found had happened was that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits.
Nope.
And when the hit had fallen, but men, others, would have been immune.
There were no civilians in that fort. There's about 1,000 soldiers.
Knowing that all of the British guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up
Mm-hmm.
until they died. Their bodies were removed and others took their place.
He's talking about like hundreds of people being killed here.
They held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle. Patriots' bodies.
It's a nice story. Completely fiction.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? For the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that the
Flag was still there.
was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet fly
Yeah, fly. You can't even say the name right.
o'er the land
The
of brave?
yet wave.
The debt was demanded. The price, it was paid.
Okay, that's enough of that. There were no civilians in that fort. Do. Alright. Failed bombardment of Fort McHenry forced the British to abandon their land assault on the crucial port of Baltimore. British defeat was a turning point in the War of 1812, leading to both sides to reach a peace agreement later on that year. Okay. General George Armistead. Yeah. The Americans lost 28 soldiers, not civilians. There were no civilians in that port. There were 28 out of 1,000. There's 1,000 men in that fort. The British bombed the hell out of it for over 20 some hours. Okay. British strategy during the War of 1812 in the defense of the British were more concerned in defeating Napoleon in Europe. True. And fighting a minor war with the United States. Okay. So the war was mainly fought, again, between Native American tribes and defensively trying to defend Canada, which the Americans never got a good chance of, trying to. They invaded Canada several times, and the British Army, the Redcoats, were there to stop the Americans from getting too far into Canada and actually trying to annex it. So the Americans had more success in their proxy war with the Native American tribes than in any other, especially as far as Crown conflict during the year and a half or so up to this point. Okay. 1,000 troops in the fort, 5,000 troops across, several ships here. Let's see. The Americans assembled 10,000 men and 100 cannons astride the Philadelphia Road, blocking the British advance toward Baltimore. The British had already landed a force on their way, landed a small force, 5,000 troops or less, on their way up to Baltimore across land. They got stopped by these 10,000 troops, and those 100 cannon are also along the road, also looking out into the sea. So you not only have to get past the fort, you have to get past these, with the cannons in the fort, you have to get past these 100 cannons also there. You don't want to be in range of any of these things. Okay? 1,000 Americans at Fort McHenry, commanded by General George Armistead. On the morning of September 13th, British warships began their bombardment. Because of the shallow water, Admiral Cochrane is unable to use his heavy warships. They can't get close. And instead is attacked with bombing vessels, mortars. The Terror, the Volcano, the Meteor, the Devastator, and the Etna. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 mortar ships. Shallow draft. Okay? Those can get into the shallow water and fire mortars, lob mortars up and over and into the fort. Joining them is the rocket ship, the Erebus, which launched the newly invented Congreve mortars. Again, these are concrete explosive charges. They don't really do a whole lot, but the ammunition used by these ships would later inspire Keyes' famous lines, "The rocket's red glare," and "the bombs bursting in the air." These are mortars. Again, light the fuse, send it up, and if the fuse depends on how short of the fuse is. Does the fuse blow up in air? Does it blow up over the fort itself? Initially, British exchanges fire with the fort's cannons, but soon withdraw out of range. So, for the next 27 hours in driving rain, these 6 warships are all it's firing. Not the however many hundred. Or dozens. It really doesn't say how many ships we're talking about here. More than 1,500 cannonballs, shells, and rockets are fired, but only inflict light damage thanks to the fortifications. And again, they know they're coming, so they reinforce the fort even more so than it already was. Completed before the battle. Cochrane orders the landing parties to pass the fort and attempt to withdraw troops, but that doesn't work. So on September 14th in the morning, American defenders lowered their battled storm flag and raised a 30 by 42 foot big flag pole. Okay, they can see it from a long way. They couldn't target you. The mortars aren't that accurate. They can't target that. They can't pinpoint the flagpole. Okay. It was even larger than the one that they had. Oh, and 4 killed, 24 wounded. 1 killed. So they killed 4 Americans, wounded 28. Yeah, wound back then is pretty bad, but killed 4. Not the however many this guy's talking about in this video. Okay. The British would give up on... They're not getting past this fort. They know it. They give up on it. Key and his friend get off the ship and head to the shore. The British turn their fleet around and head towards New Orleans, which is the other port where privateers are operating out of. They reinforce on their way. What they don't hear is that the United States and the British have already begun negotiations. The war will be over by December. This is September. So within 3 months, the war will already be over. By the time this fleet reaches New Orleans, the war is over. But they don't know that. They don't find that out. And they land troops at New Orleans and run into Colonel, later President, Andrew Jackson, and his men, his volunteers, his Native Americans, and a whole bunch of privateers. And the British suffer a massive defeat at New Orleans. Mainly because the Americans are using rifles rather than the smoothbore muskets. Rifles that are accurate, rifles that are hard to load, but you got one man on the line firing, 2 or 3 behind him, bang, here's a gun, give it to the guy behind you. He spends however much time it takes, and it takes a long time to load those rifles because of the way that they're designed. He takes however long he needs to take to reload that rifle, but while he's loading that, another guy has already loaded one, hands you a new rifle, bang, you hand that one back, the other guy hands you the rifle that he just loaded, and bang. And they did this. And those rifles were accurate to about 200 yards, whereas the British were using Brown Bess smoothbores still that were accurate to maybe 80 to 100 yards. The British never got close enough to really do a whole lot of damage, and suffered thousands of dead, versus like only a couple hundred Americans, if that, a few dozen. And then the war was over. And I mean, the war was already over by the time that battle happened. it was just sealed the deal. But it was just a stalemate. It was a worthless war, really. But okay. So I've just spent, the better part of an hour just, taking apart apart an 8-minute. I'm not even going to get into the song. The rest of this is just the Star Spangled Banner and, somebody singing, whoop-de-doo. We've heard this all the time, okay? The video is absolutely, and here's the thing. The video is absolutely useless. Proof of this? It's posted July 6th, 2 days after Independence Day, 2013. Okay, so it's now already 8 years old? 7 years old? 8 years old. 8 years old. It's already 8 years old. Almost. The story of how our national anthem came to be. No. I was asked by someone to put a video together for this audio and upload it. So here it is. Okay. So this Mona Rose, by the way, only has 2 videos uploaded. 2 videos. This thing's got 16 million views. And it's not even accurate. Okay. Yes, I'm aware some of the information isn't exactly right. Like 90% of it isn't right. That's the point I'm making here. 90% of what's in this video, this 8 minutes or whatever, 90% of it is wrong. Please stop sending complaints. Yeah, the comments are turned off. How long have the comments been turned off? I have no idea. But you got people like me coming into these comments saying, wrong, 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 wrong. So they turned off the comments. Here's a link to one of the many sources for info on the true story. And, it links to these things, okay? Which is the accurate story. It has nothing to do with anything that this guy just said. Okay? You can look up the accurate story if you want the precise. Okay, so this person knows that the audio is wrong. Here's the thing that this is what kills me, okay? The whole point that I'm making, not only just to destroy this thing, here's the reason why I'm making this video. Okay? Here's the reason I'm making this video. They know it's wrong. And the video's still up, and it's getting 16 million views because the American education system, a part of something that I was part of for a little while, has failed almost 17 million people. 247,000 likes, 15,000 dislikes. I'm one of them. I'm not going to hit that dislike button, but I'm one of them. 16 million people, almost 17 million people have viewed this thing. It's still up. It should not be, because it's wrong. Okay? And they know it's wrong. It says so right there. It isn't exactly right. It's so wrong. And they know it. It should be taken down. And people should stop reacting to it. I don't blame British guy, Scottish guy, British guy, Russian guy, New Zealand lady, British guy, all these people watching this video because somebody said watch this video. Hey, this is a neat story about the national anthem. You've heard it. You watch the Olympics. You've heard. It's on every. You're.
Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of it.
Yeah.
And Francis.
Yeah. Who's still? And this guy's in tears. I mean, it's a compelling story, but it's mostly fiction. So I don't blame them. They don't know. They weren't raised with this. This isn't part of their history. So they don't know. They don't know any better. Okay. Somebody sent them a bunch of fiction and they don't know. Okay. I'm going to be posting this into their things so that they can learn. Okay. But I don't blame them. That's fine. What kills me? Again, not just the fact that this video is still up. They know it's inaccurate and they still have it up so that these people who don't know better can watch it. What kills me is the Americans down in the comments down here talking about how great of a thing this is. Proud to be an American. Super emotional. A U.S. Army vet, what I love most about the anthem, it extends the question, a great reminder and lesson in the history of our anthem. It's not the right history. It's inaccurate. It's totally wrong. Also, why we hold our flag so dear. I mean, it's all these patriotic. Now, here's the thing, and I know somebody's going to come into here. And what was it? Somebody already did. Somebody went into one of these things and basically laid out everything that I just laid out. In fact, he did an even better job of it. Where is it? It's somewhere down here. It just blew this thing apart. In fact, I think it's... Where is it? Maybe it's over here. Same, I don't know if it's the same guy, but, somebody went into one of those 6 people right before I started this. What does my title mean? This video about the Star Spangled Banner is wrong. Okay. So this is, he goes into the comments and starts, it was the War of 1812, not the Revolutionary War. Okay, there was no colonies. The colonies have been, there were 15 states, not 13 colonies. There was no ultimatum to Baltimore, nor to the U.S. to do anything. Okay. Bad history. This. Star Spangled Banner as you've never heard it. The reason it's bad history. This entire video is totally bogus. Not totally bogus. It's 90% inaccurate. Okay, and you got people. As I stated at the beginning of this whole thing, you got a whole bunch of people. You got British people, Scottish people, Russian people, New Zealand people that are making reaction videos to these things. Yeah, somewhere here. To this video because they got told, "Hey, watch this video. It's a great story about the national, the American national anthem." They don't know any better. It's not their history. So sure, of course, I'll watch this. The problem is they're watching something that is almost 90% pure fiction. That's why it's bad history. This, and they even say that in the I'm aware some of this info isn't exactly right. Well, if it's not right, if you know it's not right, you shouldn't even have the damn thing up there for people to watch because you're getting the complete wrong information. You've got again Americans going into this thing saying how great how great the story is, how great the country is because of this sacrifice. These people should know better. Well, it's got a lot of content, but if you're if you have to embellish a story this much, I mean, it's a compelling story already. It's a great story. The true story is a great story already. Well, that's not true anymore. There's actually countries younger than us now. The true story of the Battle of Fort McHenry, how that flag was, how Francis Scott Key wrote what will become the national anthem. Okay, detailed 12 points that this guy details here, and that gets put into the thing. um, the true story is a compelling enough story. You don't have to make up this boatloads of prisoners in the British cargo holds that didn't exist because there was a warship. They didn't have pens for hundreds of prisoners, and when there was only really one. There's one prisoner that Key was trying to get out, trying to be released. Okay, there were no civilians in the fort to be killed. There was no sacrifices. There four Americans died. 28 injured. 20 some injured. 24 injured. Okay, it's a compelling. I mean, okay, they those four paid the ultimate price. Injured. It's a compelling enough story, and and as an American, you can be proud. You have every right to be proud of the accomplishment that got handled in this battle against these odds. These are actually pretty good odds that the Americans were able to withstand. 50 ships. Okay, and again, only like 6 of them are actually shooting. The other 40 some couldn't get close enough, or else risk not being able to get to Baltimore, which was their goal. Battle started at daylight. Started in morning. They shelled for 27 hours. Washington never said the quote that's in there. The battle was not over the flag. It had nothing to do with the flag. The flag was completely incidental. The battle over the fort was just to try to silence the gun in order to get past the fort. The point of that was to get past the fort into Baltimore and take out the port of Baltimore, take out the ships that were in Baltimore, take out the pirates that the Americans had hired that were based in Baltimore. They wanted to get to Baltimore and take out the ships, take out the supplies, take out everything that had been bugging them for the past few years up to this point. Okay. Yeah, British did not specifically target them. They're using mortars. They can't really target. You can't target too well with mortars. Not then. Modern day mortars you can get a lot more accurate. Back then, not that great, especially ship-based mortars. In a storm, in a rainstorm. Okay, these are sailing ships. The wind blows them all to hell after. The wind is blowing them all to hell. The rain is making the whole thing difficult. It's obviously going to be creating waves on the water. Okay, so the fact that they're even getting any of their shells close to the fort to begin with is a testament to how good the British were able to do. But there's no way to accurately attack the flag when you're under those kind of conditions, even if they were trying to, which they weren't. Their goal was not the flag. The goal was to silence the guns in that fort, drive the people out so they could get past that fort. 28 American casualties, 4 actual dead. They were not used to hold up the flagpole. They were probably out by the cannons, manning the cannons. And there were 2 flags. There was a flag flying during the inclement weather, and then when the shelling had stopped, the rain had stopped, the morning had started, the general raised an even bigger flag that had been flying the entire day before. One that wouldn't have been able to stand. You've got flags. And this is true even today. You got flags that are set up for different kinds of conditions. So if you've got a flag that's going to fly 24 hours, or if you have a like a military installation or a government building or something like that, where you're going to fly the flag regardless 24 hours. You're going to fly a flag 24 hours. More or less, right? You'll sometimes, take it up and down or whatever, right? But if you're going to fly a flag, during a rainstorm, they have special flags, even then, even now, that are designed to withstand rain and wind and things better than others. So you fly those flags during a rainstorm. And then when the rain is over, you take that flag down and you raise up another one that you don't need to be, and the ones that withstand the rain are a little stiffer, so they don't quite wave so well. So you want a flag that waves a little bit better, You take the rain flag down and raise up the other one, and it waves a little bit better. Okay, and that's what these guys did. They took down the rain flag that had already that had not only weathered the storm, the rain that was going on, but also weathered all the shells that were being shot in and around it. They weren't targeting the flag, but of course, it did get holes from the shells that were exploding around it. So they take that down and they raised up another one, a bigger one. They could wave in the, and that's the flag that Scott saw. He was up and down in that ship all the time. He went to bed as much as anybody could sleep. He woke up the next morning, saw the new, bigger flag flying, and said, wow, it's still up there. The British failed in their attempt to get past that fort and to get into Baltimore, and they gave up. They went down to New Orleans instead, and then got their asses handed to them. Really? Okay, so this should not be. This should not be a thing. This video should not be up. It should not be shared. It should not be shown to non-American people. It shouldn't be shown to anybody. Americans or non-Americans, but especially non-Americans who don't know better. All the Americans that are down in here making comments, damn it, guys, you went to American schools. This is not the history of this flag. The reason why you've never heard this history, because as you've never heard it, is because it's wrong. It's not the history. The accurate history is not this. It's what you guys learned in schools, what you guys should have learned in schools, and you should be questioning this. You should be like I said, I was going through this thing. I was listening to this guy, this one British guy, listening to this thing, watching it. He's all sitting there in tears because he doesn't know better, and why would he? But I'm sitting there listening to him, going, "That's not right. That doesn't sound right." And every American who's down in here, and by the way, anybody who criticizes this video as a commie is what a bunch of people were saying down in here. The comments in these things are just ridiculous. These are Americans making these comments. They should not be making these comments. They should be going, wait, that doesn't sound right. Because it doesn't sound right. Because it's not right. 90% of it is not right. You shouldn't be in here saying, well, this is a great story. Well, it's a great story, but it's fiction. You don't read Harry Potter and think it's a great, it's a great story, great testament to British history. It's pure fiction. It's got a little bit of British history in it, maybe. It's got a little bit of, historical, you read Harry Potter, you hear, a name like Nicholas Flamel. Well, Nicholas Flamel was actually, was an actual person. He was an alchemist way back when. That doesn't mean he was a wizard. It doesn't mean that he succeeded and therefore lived hundreds of years. It doesn't mean that's all pure fiction. You're wrapping a fiction around a little kernel of truth. Okay? You're taking go here's a good analogy for you guys. Okay? Go into your cupboards, go into your pantry, go into your refrigerator. You got any corn in there? Corn on the cob? Canned corn? You got any popcorn? Go find that. And take out just one little kernel of that corn. Just one. Not the entire bag, not the entire can, just not the entire ear of corn. Whatever you got, take just one kernel of corn. That's it. Okay. There's the truth. And what this video is doing is it's taking that one little kernel of corn, that one little bit of truth, and he's wrapping a great big, and he's, take that kernel of corn like in October, sometime around, as we're getting to Halloween. You go out to the pumpkin patch, go out and buy the biggest pumpkin you can possibly find. Okay? Carve it open like you're gonna make a jack-o'-lantern before you toss all the innards out so you can carve open the rest of the thing. Carve that open, toss that kernel of corn down into the pumpkin. Biggest pumpkin you find, throw that little kernel of corn in there. That little kernel of corn is the truth. That big pumpkin is the big lie. It's the great pumpkin. It's the peanuts. It's Linus, Charlie Brown, Lucy. It's Linus's great pumpkin lie. Okay, is what this video just put around that little kernel of corn. And it's not just that. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer. Great. There's one kernel of corn. Okay, he went to negotiate a prisoner release. One prisoner, by the way. There's another kernel of corn. Whoop. The British fought a battle at an American fort. There's another kernel of corn. So this guy is taking little kernels of corn, little kernels of the truth, and throwing each one of them into its own separate pumpkin and making this big pumpkin lie. Okay? The great pumpkin lie. Okay? He's got this is entire 8 minutes of, he's got a pumpkin patch. An 8-minute pumpkin patch of a lie being told here in this video. Each pumpkin surrounding a little kernel of corn, a little kernel of truth around inside these lies. He's got an entire pumpkin patch. Each pumpkin is a big lie around this little kernel of truth. Okay? And these reactors are eating it up. That's fine. They don't know. Again, they don't know any better. Everybody down in the comments, though. All these Americans that are down in the comments, though, they should know better. You should know your history a lot better than to allow you to be bamboozled by a video like this. It has nothing to do with patriotism. You can be proud of the history that actually happened here. Here's the story, guys. Read this story and be proud as Americans, if you wish. Be proud of our flag. Be proud of our history. Here's the story as it happened. Be proud in this. You don't need a fictional tale to be told to you to be proud of your country. You should be outraged, in fact, that this preacher is sitting in front of his congregation and telling this story, this nearly complete fiction, and that somebody decided to put a video to it, and it's been up since 2013. Still, and people are reacting to it, and they know it's wrong. It says so right in the in the description box. They know it's wrong, and it's still up. This should be taken down. People should not be reacting to it. Americans should not be commenting positively on it. You should know better. You should all know better. Here's the story. Alright, I've done an hour and a half on this. I don't know if I'm going to cut this down. If you're watching this, thank you for watching. I'll maybe come back later If you're watching this on Twitch, I'll come back later and we'll play some more games or something. But I saw this and I felt the need to say something. Again, I've got a history degree, American history being the primary source of my studies. I've taught this subject briefly, but I taught it. I've taught this subject. So, okay. I don't know where this preacher thought he was getting his information from. Oh, and by the way, here's another one. Whoever this Dudley Rutherford is, 9 years ago. That's even farther away than that. 9 years ago, he's saying the same damn thing. So another preacher, by the way. Where are these guys getting their history from? They're spending too much time in their Bible reading that than they're actually reading history books. Because what they're saying, this guy's saying the same thing as what's in this video. Because I watched that too, just to say the accurate story. No, it's wrong. Here's the accurate story. And it just teased me off. The Americans particularly, you're from a different country. You hear a different. You've learned a different history in your schools. You learn the history of your country in the schools. You're not going to hear American history. I saw another video. Told by a British guy. And the question was, do the British learn about the American Revolution? Not really. It's a footnote. We left. And so many other countries have left the British Empire since. We're probably the first, but we're one of many that have left the British Empire. Okay. Off you go. Have fun. They don't care. It's not taught. Not like it's, obviously taught in the United States. And that's the Revolutionary War. It's not taught. This is not even. It's a minor footnote even in American history, really, considering how little came from it. The British learned to respect us a little bit better after this. Not nearly as much as they would later. 150 years later. They wouldn't really respect the United States until later. But, they gained a little bit more respect for us. They left us alone as a country after this. They didn't bother us anymore after this. So that accomplished something on the American side. But overall, it's really a minor. It was barely 2 years. Probably not even 2 years. 20-something months. I'd have to look it up. From the time we declared war in 1812 till when the war was finally over in December, officially. The Battle of New Orleans happened in January of 1815. That was the last battle, but the war was already officially over by then. Okay, so count from, declaration of war to the Battle of New Orleans. How many months are we talking about here? Probably not even quite 2. 24. 24 months, 2 years. Probably not quite that long. Give or take. Whatever, A minor blip, even in American history. Even less of one in British history. I doubt they even hear about this war. Because they're too busy fighting Napoleon during this time. Why would they talk about the war with America while they're in a war with Napoleon at the time? That's what they would be taught in the schools. In this time frame, in the early 1800s, the history that the British learned particularly would be completely wrapped around their war with France and specifically Napoleon. Napoleon-led France. Why would they talk about the Americans? So they don't know. Okay, they don't know. Every American down here in the comments should know better. They should see this video and say, wait, that doesn't sound right. Let me look that up, and come to battlefields.org, the Battle of Fort McHenry, and you should read this. And then you should go back into that video and say, that's wrong. This video should not exist. Stop sending it around to people. Stop reacting to it. Because you're sending the wrong message. That's it for me right now. I may be back later if you're watching on Twitch. I'll see you guys. We're going to play some more games later. Another episode. So, but I just needed to say that. So, we'll have some more fun later. I'm going to go have some breakfast. I'll see you guys in the next video. Look at all the, subscribe from stuff. If you like video games, if you like games, give this thing, if you like what I have to say about this, give it a like. If you want, subscribe. If you want, tell me if you like this. I'll go tear anybody else's history apart if you like. That's my thing. I'm an out of work historian. Or out of history work anyway. You want to have a discussion with history on me. For one thing, you better you better come well prepared. But you want me to tear, if you want me to tear anybody else apart on their history, on their bad history, then I'll do so. Give me a comment down below. And again, it has nothing to do with patriotism. Like I said, people who criticize that original video are not communists. They know their history. They're criticizing the video because it's wrong. They know their history. I know my history. It's wrong. That video's wrong. We have every right to criticize it. It has nothing to do with how patriotic we are or not. I've got family who's been in the military. My own father being a military person, so don't come at me with patriotism, okay? When you're trying to back up bad history. I know the true story. Here it is. Okay, this is the right story. You want to be patriotic about something? Here it is. We can talk about patriotism over accurate facts. Okay, that video is not accurate. Okay, so don't try coming at me saying I'm some sort of unpatriotic whatever just because you're trying to back up a video that is 90% wrong. Okay, we'll try to have some fun later on. So until then, I will see you guys in the next video. Stay strange. Bye bye.